Good vibe, that's for sure. Get smooth with Tim, get smooth with Tim. They have you rolling like you popped the pill. Once you hear the show, you ain't gonna want it to end. Get creative with the sounds you can make with your mouth. Reaching all over the world, Queen Silvy in the house. Award-winning show, got the #1 spot. Look out. It's the Queen Silvy Show. 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 Look out.
Selfie.
Andrew was unable to give a truly clear explanation to the police. He himself was amazed and confused as a detective who was listening to his story. It all goes back some 30 years ago. Irene was a highly sought-after fashion model, and she had just landed a formidable contract for an assignment in New Orleans. Irene had always wanted to visit the Big Easy during the Mardi Gras and experience the vibrant party atmosphere. Irene decided it would be a wonderful idea to book herself into a quaint hotel in the midst of the French Quarters. After checking in and quickly freshening up, Irene thought she'd explore the area, getting the feeling of what all the fuss was about. The atmosphere of people dancing to calypso music, colorful costumes, people drinking. Well, to be frank, the entire celebration was amazing to the ears and eyes. As Irene continued to explore, she found herself on a small side street. It appeared that the shops in this area were either closed or empty, all but one, that is. A small shop at the end of the street still had its light on. As Irene approached, she saw a sign in the window that read, Madame Lascelles Hoodoo Shop. How could that not strike up a little curiosity into someone? Irene decided to check it out. What could be the harm, she thought to herself. Besides, everyone knows it's all superstition anyhow. As Irene entered the shop, her senses immediately heightened. There was a strong smell of incense, and there were lots of candles lighting up the entire shop, and all of them were set amidst various trinkets and what appeared to be stuffed animals. Suddenly a voice came up from behind Irene.
How can I help you, my dear?
Oh my, you startled me. I'm so sorry. I know it's late in the evening and apparently yours the only shop open on this small street. But I was curious, what exactly do you do here?
I grant wishes, my dear.
Well, Irene wasn't born yesterday, but that statement made Irene want to dig just a little bit deeper. After all, this hoodoo stuff is all superstition and folklore anyhow, isn't it?
You grant wishes? Now that sounds interesting. So you're saying that anything I wish for, no matter what, you'll make it all come true?
Yes, but all wishes, they come with a price.
So how much is this wish gonna cost me?
I ask for no money, my dear. Just simply tell me what it is you wish for.
Well, Irene pondered for a moment about what wish she'd want most granted. As she looked about the small little shop, she noticed a small mirror and quickly thought of her beauty.
I like to stay young forever. I mean, my looks, they're important to me. I forever want to be beautiful.
Granted.
That's it? Is that quick? I'm confused. I mean, you said you grant wishes for a price.
No, I said I grant wishes with a price.
Wishes with a price? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Your price is simple, my dear. Remember, without a selfie a day keeps the wrinkles away.
That's it? I take a selfie a day and I'll forever stay beautiful? That's the only stipulation, a selfie a day?
Yes, my dear. But never forget it. For if you forget, you will age 10 times fast. That is your price.
The little shop she visited seemed to be the best decision of Irene's life. Her career soared with endorsement opportunities, television shows, and movie offers. Yes, Irene's timeless beauty was certainly paying off. And yes, in case you were wondering, Irene did keep up with her selfie a day. It keeps her young and also feeds her ever-growing social media audience. Irene eventually bumped into her future husband, Andrew, at a small gathering of friends. Despite their age difference, Irene and Andrew hit it off immediately, fell in love, and decided to marry. The couple thought a trip to the mountains would be the perfect honeymoon getaway, so Andrew chose a mountaintop cabin away from the hustle and bustle of their everyday life. The newlyweds were excited as they approached their cabin, and it certainly was up in the mountains, and the views were breathtaking.
This is perfect, Andrew. What a great place for pictures. You know the old saying, a selfie a day keeps the wrinkles away.
Actually, Andrew had never heard that before, except from Irene. He thought it was a model saying or something. He did know that Irene did religiously take a selfie a day, no matter where they were or whom they might be with. Everything was perfect until the second evening. The weather seemed to change immediately, and it now appeared that they were caught in a blizzard. Andrew had gathered some extra logs and was refueling the fire when all the electricity went out. The heavy snow had obviously snapped the power lines and had also buried their car way past the roof.
Don't worry, Irene. In a day or so, it'll all be gone and we'll be back home.
I'm not worried. I mean, I've got you and my phone. What more can a girl ever want?
On the third day of being snowed in, Irene figured out exactly what else she might need. Irene's cell phone was nearly out of battery life. The battery life indicator was blinking, and she hadn't yet taken a selfie.
Andrew, do you have juice in your phone? Mine's about to quit.
Well, mine stopped this morning.
Irene began to panic. The warning from Madame Lascelles was echoing in her head. Irene went into the bathroom and gazed into the mirror. It was true. Instead of looking 30 years old, it appeared she had aged overnight. Irene, for the first time, saw deep wrinkles in her face. Strands of gray hair were growing in, and her nails were turning yellow. Irene was beginning to panic. It seemed that time was no longer on her side. It was now her worst nightmare. The wish granted by Madame Lascelles was starting to come true, with its terrifying price. Irene sat in a chair in front of the fire, realizing the horrific results of her vain wish that were now coming true. There was no way to charge her phone. The car was buried under several feet of snow, and she had never told Andrew about her visit to the hoodoo shop some 30 years ago. Andrew could now only look on in horror as he watched his bride age over 100 years before his eyes in a matter of hours. Her skin was now nothing but loose, wrinkly flesh. Her once beautiful smile was no more. Irene's hair had turned completely white and was starting to fall out. Her body looked as if it had been ravaged by arthritis, her fingers crooked and thin. She struggled both to hear and to see Andrew. With her dying breath, Irene looked into Andrew's eyes and spoke.
Andrew, I'm so sorry. I should have told you, my love. My beauty was timeless, granted by a hoodoo queen. I only had to take a selfie a day to keep my beauty. I never should have went in that shop. Some wishes should never be granted. The price is too high.
The detective looked Andrew straight in the eyes and asked, "You expect me to believe that this 100-year-old woman was your 30-year-old wife 3 days ago?" Andrew could only sob as he watched the wedding band slip from his bride's finger and onto the cabin's floor as the coroner took her lifeless body away. Oscar. Margaret went about her day as if it were any other day, just as she had since she found her new best friend, her new pet, Oscar. Margaret lives in a small home out in the country, about 3 miles or so from the little town of Brewster, Wisconsin. Margaret keeps busy working on her arts and crafts, and she would sell them at the local flea market as a source of income. Margaret had never married and always seemed quite content according to the locals. However, deep in Margaret's heart, she was lonely and longed for love. One evening, while quietly reading by the living room fire, she heard what sounded like a jet passing close to her home, then a large boom or crashing sound. Margaret immediately jumped up and looked outside her home. In a large field behind her home, she saw a reddish glow coming from what appeared to be an impact site. Alarmed that it could be a jet crash, Margaret ran toward the impact site, but as she approached, she stopped in amazement. It wasn't a jet crash. It was a meteor that had crashed in her backyard. Margaret slowly and cautiously approached the meteor. It had a reddish glow and it smelled a lot like sulfur. Margaret thought it would be best to report this to someone as soon as possible. But at that very moment, Margaret saw something move. Something that was crawling out of the meteor. At first, Margaret was ready to run for the hills, but she heard a soft purring sound coming from the creature. It had large, bright eyes, a short, stubby tail, and looked quite like a small teddy bear. The creature seemed to be reaching out to Margaret as if it needed help or reassurance to know that it was safe. Margaret took the small little alien creature back to her home. She fed the creature some warm milk and a few small pieces of bread, and then wrapped it in a small blanket to keep it warm. As she held the creature in her lap and she looked into its big brown eyes, it seemed to smile at her as it softly purred. She had reassured herself that in the morning she'd notify the authorities. Well, things started to change. By this, I mean Margaret was starting to get attached to the small little alien creature. The little teddy bear-like creature seemed to want and need Margaret to hold, cuddle, and love it. Was this what she'd been missing all of her life? Was these type of feelings for someone or something else love? Her heart never felt so warm or fulfilled. Looking down at her newfound companion, she decided she would name him Oscar. Yes, Oscar from outer space, she chuckled to herself. Margaret and Oscar became more than owner and pet. No, Oscar was special. Why, Oscar would actually show emotions. He would smile when he was happy, frown when he was disappointed, and even winked whenever Margaret entered the room. On one particular cold day, the furnace went out, and Margaret had to call one of the local servicemen to come out and check it. Margaret informed the serviceman the broken furnace was in the basement and to be careful as the steps were quite old. Margaret then went about her daily business of making her arts and craft to sell at the market. She stopped dead in her tracks when she heard a horrific scream and crashing sound coming from the basement. She stood at the top of the stairs calling out for the repairman, but there was no response. Panicked, Margaret slowly descended the old stairs. What she saw next shocked her. The entire basement was covered in blood, body parts were strewn everywhere, and in the midst of it all sat Oscar. He turned towards Margaret, winked, and smiled. What the hell had happened here, she thought. How could Oscar have done this to a grown man? Was she dreaming? Oscar ran towards Margaret, jumped into her arms, and began to purr. No way, she thought. No way sweet Oscar could have ever have done this. It had to have been some insane accident. How could she ever explain all of this? Who'd believe her? What would the authorities do with Oscar? Margaret did what any other red-blooded, totally in love woman would do. Well, she decided to cover it all up. Margaret drove the serviceman's truck into the backyard pond. It was deep enough that no one would ever find it, and of course, it appeared Oscar would devour, well, what was remaining of the serviceman. There was some fuss about town concerning the missing man. No one ever suspected or even asked Margaret anything about it. Well, that was until several weeks later. Margaret heard a knock on the front door. It was a young, well-dressed man identifying himself as a police detective, and he was working on a missing persons case. The detective asked if she had heard of the missing man from town, and Margaret acknowledged she had heard the rumors. The detective asked if the man had ever arrived at her home, as he was on her service schedule. Margaret told the detective that yes, he had done the repairs to the furnace in the basement, and then he left. The detective asked if he could look around the basement to perhaps find a clue as to the man's disappearance. The hair on the back of Margaret's neck stood up. Her thoughts ran wild. Had she cleaned everything up? Would he find out about Oscar? Right this way, she said to the detective, and be careful. The steps are old. Margaret opened the basement door and snapped on the light and directed the detective to the back corner of the basement. Margaret smiled to herself this time, thinking, yes, there's plenty of room in the pond for one more car, and after all, she had neglected to feed Oscar lunch earlier. As Margaret looked into Oscar's beautiful eyes, she thought to herself, isn't love grand?
Hi, this is Joe Mass. You are listening to the Queen Silvy Show.